even Ross Valley Fire, we thought we might not have a fire engine because it was out in a call, but a battalion command car showed up at the last minute and escorted us, our own Jake Peterson. And the parade included council members, floats of all shapes and sizes, vintage cars, lots of participants from Ross and surrounding communities. After a triumphant finish on the Common, we were treated to an afternoon of games and entertainment, including the much anticipated second annual Patriotic Pooch Woof Woof Dog Contest. And we also, as we enjoyed our picnic under the trees on the Common, were treated to entertainment, including our own Shady Ladies Chorus, the Top Shelf Classics Band, and last but not least, although there were only about 10 people left by the time they came on, the Golden Gate Barbershop Quartet. So I'm sure I speak for the entire council in thanking all the participants, our Public Works Department, and especially the Ross Recreation Department for its months-long effort in planning and organizing the parade and celebration. So in addition to our parade and picnic in July, July marks the beginning of our fiscal year, which runs from July 1st, in this case of 2024, through June 30th of the following year, 2025. And thanks to sound and prudent fiscal management, Ross begins the year on a very solid footing. We have sufficient resources to fund our operations and continue local infrastructure projects throughout the year. But one major issue still to be addressed at some future point in time is funding for replacement of our aging public safety and administration buildings. We're presently awaiting a commitment from the Ross Valley Paramedic Authority to continue to station paramedics in our new buildings before we proceed to the next step, which will be detailed architectural and other planning. And although we've already set aside a considerable sum for this project, we will need to finance the balance of the project cost, and this will probably require a bond issue of some kind for which we'll need to go to the voters. In the meantime, I hope you all have a safe and enjoyable summer, and be sure to save the date for our next town events, live on the Common on September 6th, and the annual town dinner on September 27th. And there is one late entry, which doesn't need to go in the morning after because it is a late entry, but I just wanted to mention that, and this is late breaking, and as Steve Jobs used to say, one more thing, save the date for Saturday. We're going to have a Stargazers event on the Ross Common with amateur astronomers and Marin bringing their telescopes to the Common for particularly moon gazing. We know we'll be able to see the moon. How much else we'll be able to see depends on when you get there. We'll start at 8:30. If you want to see more, you'll need to come later, which might not be possible with children. We welcome all ages, particularly children. But if you can stick around for a while, we might be able to see a few other things. So Ross Common, 8:30 this Saturday. All right, that concludes the mayor's report, and we will then move on to council, committee, and liaison reports. Councilmember McMillan.
Thank you, Mayor Kersher. Spider on my microphone. A couple of you attended the meeting yesterday that the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority sponsored along with the Ecologically Sound Practices Group, where we had Dr. Daniel Swain speak about climate change and its influence on fires in the Western US, particularly in California. And his message was pretty grim, in my opinion. He used a term that I'd never heard before, which was aridification, which means everything's getting drier and hotter, and the fuel is getting drier because of climate change. And today we had our Marin Wildfire Executive Committee meeting where the executive officer said that the anticipated fire forecast for late summer and fall is bad because we had so much rain And so there's a lot more fuel than normal. And we've had so much early heat drying out the fuel. So we all need to be really, really vigilant in making preparations. One other thing to note is that the nights aren't getting as cool as they used to get. So I also wanted to mention that the Baywood Canyon project that Ross Valley Fire Department and the town of Ross have supported is completed, and it looks great. And thank you very much for helping with that. And hopefully it will motivate our neighbors to keep up with the maintenance. That's it. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you,
Yes,
Mayor.
Terry.
The Transportation Authority of Marin met on June 27th, and there was a presentation by the Bay Area Toll Authority on a pilot for the breakdown emergency lane on the Richmond-San Rafael Bridge by removing the bike lane on the east to west portion of the bridge Monday through Thursday, the heaviest commute days. A bike van will be available to transport bikes and their riders across the bridge Monday through Thursday. Further analysis is in the works to explore utilizing this third lane, Monday through Thursday, for a carpool and transit lane. To accommodate this third lane for carpooling and transit, improvements will be required on the Marin side, especially the exit to Sir Francis Drake. More to come.
There's not a report from the fire board that we met this week.
Just a quick note with respect to fire. Terry, you were there, right? The badge pinning ceremony. So there was a badge pinning ceremony at Station 19 in San Anselmo for our new fire chief, Dan Mahoney, our new battalion commander, Jake Peterson, who got his start here in Ross. He's a Ross local. And then Amanda Settler. And it was quite an event. It was well attended and followed by a sort of a celebration across the street at the pizza place, Creekside. And I wanted to mention that in particular because I noted in my mayor's report that when we started out, we usually follow the fire engine, and it was out on a call. And I wondered, would we see the fire department? And at the last minute, here comes the battalion command car, and I thought, that's got to be Jake. He wasn't going to forget us, and he pulled it in front and took the place of the fire truck. And I saw him recently, and I confirmed that, yes, that was him. So anyway, that is, I think, all. I did attend with Julie the presentation yesterday. It was just excellent. I mean, fantastic. Thank you.
It is available on the Marin Wildfire YouTube channel, and you can access it on the website.
Okay, so I think that concludes our council members' reports. How about, let's see, I'm sorry. That's council committee and liaison reports. I'm going to move on to item 6 now, staff and community reports. Town Manager Johnson.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Mayor and council members. I have just a couple of updates for you this evening. I too would like to thank the town council, town staff, and the community for this super festive 4th of July event. A lot of effort goes into it by all, and I think it really pays off spectacularly. It's just a super great event. The pedestrian pathway along Shady Lane is closed starting today through Monday between Ames Avenue and Southwood Avenue for repaving. The project is part 2 of the town's 3-year phased rehabilitation of the pathway to comply with accessibility standards. The final phase is between Southwood and Fernhill. It's expected to be completed next summer in 2025. The pathway will be reopened for use by the end of the day this coming Monday. And finally, I'd like to thank our town clerk, Cindy Martell, for her work every month to put together the town's celebrated and revered and beloved Morning After newsletter. She has made numerous improvements to it since she began her position here in Ross about 18 months ago. I was treated to a sneak peek at tomorrow's edition, and it is filled with valuable information and a page of photos from our fun 4th of July event. Cindy is working on implementing a suggestion made by Councilmember Dowling earlier this week, which is to make some copies of the morning after available at the town's bulletin board outside of the post office. While the newsletter is primarily, it's sent electronically to many people, we may have residents without easy access to computers who would enjoy having access to a hard copy they can just pick up at the post office when they get their mail. So I think that was a great idea, and Cindy's enthusiastic about it, and I just wanted to thank her because it's kind of a monthly, it's every month she gets it out on time and it looks good. I just wanted to publicly thank her. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Is anyone present for the report of the Ross Property Owners Association, either in the room here or online?
There's no raised hands online.
Oh, that's right. Normally, the RPOA meets prior to the council, but Councilmember McMillan is correct. So we do not have a report currently. All right, we'll move on then to item 7, the consent agenda, and these are items that will ordinarily be voted on together unless any member of the council or any member of the public requests that an item be removed for separate discussion. And via email, I received a request that one of these items be removed, and I believe that's item 7G. And I believe I see the gentleman who submitted the email present. So we will remove that item. Does any council member or member of the public wish to have any other item removed? All right, then, could we have a motion then as to the remaining items?
Yeah, I move to approve items A, B, C, D, E, F, H, I, J on the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Mayor Pro Tem McMillan,
Aye.
Councilmember Dowling,
Aye.
Mayor Kircher,
Aye.
Councilmember Robbins.
Aye.
The vote of 4, the motion passes.
All right, good. Then we'll proceed to separate consideration of item 7G, which is denominated in the agenda as Town Council to approve Town of Ross response to the Marin County Civil Grand Jury Report entitled, "With Power Comes Responsibility, Use Under Age 16 Operating Class 2 E-Bikes, a Safety Risk," and authorize the mayor to sign a letter attached to our packet. Is there a staff report on this? I mean, we have a staff report. Does any member of the staff wish to add to the report?
No, sir, not at this time.
All right, and does any member of the council have questions for staff before we open this up for public comment? All right, then we'll open this item for public comment for anyone who wishes to speak. Please, if you would, come to the podium over on my right. And please also do use the microphone if you would, sir. And so 3 minutes, please.
May I hand this out first?
Sure. Could you just pass it? Yeah, pass it around.
Thank you.
All right,
Okay.
yes, please.
Yeah, I'm Bob Middlestead, a co-founder along with Jonathan Freeman of E-Bike Access, a Marin nonprofit dedicated to the safe riding of e-bikes. A picture's worth 1,000 words. What we have here is something that you've probably seen before. It's across the street. What you see pictured is a Super 73 brand motorcycle marketed as an e-bike. They go from 0 to 30 miles per hour in about 10 seconds. No pedaling, no effort, nothing but pushing on a throttle. The police all agree that they're illegal. They're not e-bikes. On the second and third pages, I have quotes from local police. A leader in this effort has been Chief Pata. I respect his efforts a lot. I have no complaint with what he has done. You'll see who I have a complaint with. This isn't just a technicality that some retired lawyer dreamt up. It has serious health consequences. The accident rate, as you'll see on the last page, for middle schoolers is 5 to 7 times higher than other age groups. And it's because they're riding these illegal, dangerous, overpowered things. John Ma, a trauma surgeon, is here to talk about this. Unfortunately, Ross School continues to allow these. As of last month when these pictures were taken, they allow Super 73s and e-scooters. E-scooters, by state law, require a driver's license or an instructional permit, but the school continues to allow and indeed condone it. So what do we do to stop it? 2 things. First, I request that you agendize this whole topic for your next meeting. Chief Pata made clear in his May 3rd letter to school parents that he wants Ross School to enact a bike registration process to, quote, ensure that all students are riding legal and safe e-bikes. I completely agree with that. So let's have a presentation by the school officials on what they're doing to comply with that. Parents need to be informed now before they start buying more Super 73s, which have a way of multiplying sort of like a virus for the new students next year. And you should also tonight embrace the grand jury's recommendation to enact an ordinance requiring riders of any throttle e-bike to be 16 and wear helmets. This gives the police and the schools a second way to ban these devices. And then you can formally entertain a resolution for the ordinance once Damon Conley's AB 1778 passes. And finally, you should also agree to the grand jury's other major recommendation, participating in a joint task force countywide on the broader issue of e-bike regulation. My only disagreement with the chief is it shouldn't be limited just to police chiefs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Hi,
Hi, good evening.
I'm the Jonathan that Bob mentioned. So we've been active on this because, and vociferous, and we're going to continue to do that because there's a winnable issue. There are, unfortunately, many points of leverage on this, talking to towns and counties to write an ordinance that will make Class 2 bikes illegal for kids under 16 is one registration efforts at school, which will say that Class 2 bikes are not allowed on their campus. And going back to the first, if you guys pass a very strong ordinance, that's a form of enforcement. I know it's difficult for Ralph to do something like that, but it's still a form of enforcement, especially if there's publicity. And that's one thing that I think that I'm going to be doing more of. A personal experience riding these bikes. I tried one out. It was really scary. I can't even pedal on it because it sits so low. And so I was kind of sitting on it and wondering what the throttle would do. And I didn't know it would jerk away from me. And it was really scary because on the Class 1, the Class 3, you have to pedal to get up to 20 miles an hour. But the Class 2 is just a throttle and it's immediate. It takes probably, I don't know what's behind that door, but probably from that door to up there to the front to get up to 20 miles an hour. It's fast, it's scary. And imagine what these kids are already doing, using apps to increase the speed. They're scary. And it was an exhilarating experience. I want one of those because it's such an incredible bike. But I'm concerned about these kids that are 10 to 15 We've seen the stats, we've seen that they're much worse than any other age group. And so that's why I would implore you to have a strong response and in agreement to the civil grand jury, number one. Number two, start drafting an ordinance now for your town. Even it might not be enforceable, but when you get it to be out there, when you make it public, that is a form of enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor Kircher and members of the council. My name is John Ma. I'm a general surgeon at Marin Health Medical Center. I was the 2018 president of the San Francisco Marin Medical Society. I was the one who noticed the trend, the increasing deaths in Marin County, which is the home of mountain biking. We recognize that over 10% of the patients who've been brought to Marin Health Medical Center after a trauma activation have died in Marin County. And this spurred action by Assemblyman Connolly and Supervisor Sackett. I'm very grateful. It was my patient who was the first child victim who really inspired that legislation. I look forward to the passage and the signature of 1778 by Governor Newsom in August of this year. If you look around the globe, this problem of electric bikes has been recognized in Asia, across Europe. Many nations have adopted restrictions so that you have to be 16 years of age to operate an e-bike of any category. The United States is behind. Our regulations have lagged. If you look across the country, you have states like Hawaii where you must be 18 years of age to operate an e-bike. They require licensure and regulation. When I shared this concerning problem and these trends in Marin County with Supervisor Sackett and Assemblyman Connolly, this was a first step proposal to restrict and to protect youth. You know, what we witnessed really, the early problem was with older riders who are probably less experienced, who had the financial resources to purchase the earlier generation e-bikes, which were more expensive. And what we've seen over the pandemic is a dramatic increase in youth injury as the cost for these e-bikes has fallen. And I would really ask the town council to look closely at agreeing with the grand jury's recommendation regarding recommendation 1 to honor my patient who was 15 years old when they suffered a very severe head injury. We've seen a dramatic increase in deaths here in Marin. Across the nation, there has been a 49-fold rate of increase in head injuries in the last 5 years across America. I think that Ross can really lead the way in supporting the grand jury, in setting the foundation for the implementation of Assembly Bill 1778, and I think that it will lead the way for the entire nation. So thank you for your careful consideration. I really urge you to accept particularly the first recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Ken Petrella. I'm a resident of town of Ross. I just wanted to add my endorsement, what has been said ahead of me, and that is that I would encourage the town council to take some bold action, maybe be even a leader in this for the rest of the community, because I think this is a very serious problem. And it's a tragedy waiting to happen. And I'm also concerned that there's potentially a double tragedy. Someone, rightly so, we're talking about the young people that are riding these, but also think about other residents who are involved in an accident that maybe a young boy or girl is seriously hurt and they've been driving a car. They're going to be upset, and it's going to be a tragedy for them too. And if it's even more serious, if the death is involved, that's what I mean about a double tragedy. I would also like to point out that I drive a Vespa around the town of Ross and Kenfield and San Anselmo. Some of these e-bikes, they've pulled up next to me on the street. They're as big as my Vespa. My Vespa requires me to take a driver's test for a motorcycle and to have insurance and also to wear a Department of Transportation approved helmet. So if there's a blow to your head, you're much better off than in a bicycle helmet. And it's almost, it's incredulous to me what the paces I have to go through to drive legally my Vespa when kids, really 16 and younger, are driving these e-bikes that are as big and as lethal as a Vespa. So I would encourage the town council to not only endorse what was being said today, but take a leadership role for the rest of the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else from the public wish to be heard on this item? Anyone online with a raised hand?
No raised hands online.
All right, well, we'll close public comment then and bring this back to the council. Does any council member have any observations or questions for staff?
I would like to hear from staff about what their thoughts are on what's just been proposed.
So I have had plenty of meetings with Bob, and I go way back with. Sorry, just forgot your name. That's how way back I went. That's how far back it goes. So everyone's heart seems to be in the right place on this. I think there does require a little bit more thought and research into how we want to implement this. I think the grand jury's off to a good start, but I do think more work needs to be done on this before we completely sign off on all of it. But yeah.
So are you saying that the draft response to the grand jury needs to be changed, or are you saying that we need more time to decide whether we're going to enact a separate ordinance?
May I respond, Mayor? Is that
Please.
okay?
Yes.
Chief? Okay. Thank you. The draft response that staff prepared and attached to the staff report is still our recommendation. You have to respond in 4 different ways. And so we are recommending that the response says that these recommendations require further analysis. I did send to the council earlier this afternoon that the County Board of Supervisors agenda packet for their meeting next week was just published, and they have the exact same response in their draft response that's being recommended to the Board of Supervisors. So I don't see a need for the town of Ross to be out in front of the County Board of Supervisors, but we will continue to participate in any task force or committee, as the chief has really taken a leadership role already amongst the county police chiefs, and has been doing quite a bit, as the speakers mentioned, in the town of Ross and with the schools. So my recommendation is to keep the draft response as it's currently written and published in the agenda packet, but this is the town council's response, and we defer to you.
I'll make a comment. I mean, I think it's a huge loophole that these bikes are somehow all of a sudden out there. They're not licensed, the riders aren't licensed, the riders are young, they're dangerous. And so I think absolutely we want to move forward and see, what can be done at a state level, ideally, or county or local. But I think for tonight, the grand jury report is adequate as a starting point. It needs to be, I think it's time sensitive, and I'm fine with approving the staff's response to the grand jury report, and then we can move forward, as it seems appropriate, in future meetings.
Terry?
I really appreciate the comments that were made. Thank you so much. I also think that it's a starting place, the response to the grand jury. And I think there was a recommendation that was made by Bob that maybe at a future town council meeting that we actually have it on the agenda for further discussion. And I don't think it's a bad idea to include the school to come in and talk about what they're doing, in addition to what Chief Pata is doing with his team.
I would support having a separate agenda item down the road on this issue as well, and including the school to the extent we have jurisdiction and control over the school.
I agree. I think we ought to place this on the agenda at some time in the future. There are two things that I think, though, we need to have some further development on. One is Assemblymember Connolly's bill, 1778, which provides that local jurisdictions in Marin do have the ability to set a minimum age for riding these Class 2 e-bikes. And also, I think there are some additional aspects to what is being proposed, I think including that the riders wear helmets. Now, my understanding is state law already requires that those operating bicycles wear helmets if they're 16 or younger, but there's no similar requirement for riders, passengers who are every bit as much at risk, if not more, than the actual operators of the bikes, except for children very young, 5 and under, I think. So these are both things I think we should consider in Ross, provided Assembly Bill 1778 does pass, is enacted in its present form. And I hope I'm current on that, by the way. I'm on the legislative committee of MCCMC, so we review this every time we meet. But I think that's where it stands now. Originally, the bill was going to impose this as a statewide requirement. And then that was modified and watered down, but he managed to keep Marin in as sort of a so-called pilot project, where we could see how it goes until something like 2029. So if that's enacted, I would favor Ross, and very much favor Ross clamping down on these Class 2 e-bikes. They really are, in many cases, just electric motorcycles, and for unlicensed drivers to go out and put themselves at risk, their passengers at risk, and frankly, the rest of us at risk. I mean, I have to dodge them over there on our bike path. I know what they're doing, and I'm also a road biker and a mountain biker, and I'm always on the lookout for them. Of course, I'm on the lookout for cars and other bikes as well, but I mean, these kids are going straight through the stop signs, and they're not even going the speed limit. They're going over the speed limit in some cases. And so, yeah, I definitely think we should do something. We should agendize it. And I think we should work with the school to the extent we can do that. We don't want to impose an unreasonable burden, but I think at least discussing with the school restrictions on taking electric scooters that cannot lawfully be operated by children going to school, and Class 2 e-bikes. I mean, frankly, if it were up to me, I'd deal with all three classes. I have some ideas that go beyond this, but right now we're just talking about the grand jury report. So what I would say is I'm okay with the grand jury report as it is now. I think we should put our effort into, and it will require some effort, agendizing this, working with the school, supporting Chief Pata as we work with him. Oh, and there's one other aspect to this, by the way, which is that we need other jurisdictions to enact these things. I mean, I know if Ross enacted it and nobody else did, it would send a message. But that might, well, we'll see. But I think we would need to know that the other jurisdictions were going to similarly impose these requirements. I mean, think about if you were driving from Green Bay to Fairfax. The speed limits can change. You have a brake, you have an accelerator, you can modulate your speed. But let's say that Green Bay said that you could drive a car as long as it got 15 miles to the gallon. Ross said no, 50 miles to the gallon. San Anselmo said 35 miles to the gallon. And people would probably just ignore the whole thing. So I think we have a much stronger situation if everybody's together. But that again, I think is a future development depending on 1778 and it being clear that we do have the power to enact these, but also coordinating with other jurisdictions who I have no reason to think would not go along with this. I know the concern about e-bikes is widespread.
I have a question for Chief Pata. I'm wondering if the task force that you're going to be leading, if an overall ordinance recommendation could be something that would come out of that work?
Yeah, so the task force in which you're speaking of belongs to the Marin County Police Chiefs Association. So it's really, we're an advisory group. We meet once a month. And this has been a topic that has come up at least, almost every meeting in the last year or so. The problems that we're trying to work through are every community has a different standard. Every community has a different thing. The platform everyone is pretty much on the same page on this. It's just the implementation is the hangup. So we'll be discussing it. I will, I'll push as hard as I can in the right direction on this. I'm the second smallest police chief in the county of Marin, so I'll do the best I can. But yeah, I think we'll get there. It's just a matter of implementation, I think, is really the hangup on this thing. So I have confidence that we're headed in the right direction.
And I have one more question. I'm just wondering if it's appropriate for the town to communicate to all residents, including parents, about these dangers and these risks prior to the time that the AB 1778 passes and this work of the task force gets done. I know the school has done some communication, but it seems like maybe we could, especially if it was coming from you, maybe it would be stronger.
So for the last 3 years now, I've been sending a letter out at the beginning of the school year in conjunction. I do it through the schools because they really have the attention, or they have the access to the parents. I can't, right now, there's no measurement of how successful my letters are. Well, I can tell you the first couple of years probably not super successful because I didn't really see any change. When we put the kids to work on this project, we ended up getting a little bit more buy-in. We made this a project for the students with the cooperation of the Ross School. I saw a little bit of change there. So I'm not sure if, it couldn't hurt if we send something out, but I don't know if that's something that's within our purview to do. But yeah, I would support that. Yeah.
Well, if there aren't any other comments, I move we approve item G on the consent item.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem McMillan?
Aye.
Councilmember Dowling?
Aye.
Mayor Kircher?
Aye.
Councilmember Robbins?
Aye.
With the vote of 4, the motion passes.
All right, so that concludes item 7. And thank you, by the way, to everyone who addressed us on that. We are concerned and we appreciate your taking the time to come down here and address us. All right, so we are now on to item 8, public hearings on planning projects, part 1. And we'll first consider 8A, 34 Poplar Avenue, design review, variance, minor exception permit, and town council adoption of resolution number 2428, approving the project subject to conditions. Alex.
Terry has to.
Oh, Councilmember, I'm sorry.
Councilmember Dowling is
Dowling,
recusing
I'm
herself
sorry,
due to
Terry.
her proximity of the home.
I will not resign. Okay. Councilmember Dowling has recused herself, and I am back. Okay. So we will hear from staff, please. Alex.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Tonight, the homeowner at 34 Poplar Avenue is requesting approval for design review, minor exception permit, and a variance to construct an outdoor service bar kitchen in the covered patio area between the garage and the main house. The project will also include a 4-foot auto gate on Redwood Drive and a 6-foot entry gate on Poplar Avenue. The owner will also place a new heat pump unit within the side yard setback adjacent to a commercial building. And at the June meeting, the ADM members all supported the project and liked the location of the outdoor kitchen. They noted that the outdoor kitchen is well hidden from the neighbors and placed next to a commercial building, and will also not contribute to an increase in noise. Staff did receive comments from neighbors at 36 Poplar and 838 Poplar. The neighbors' concerns are that the outdoor kitchen will generate noise, and as well as the number of kitchens on the lot. I'd also like to point out that on page AG1 in the drawings, there's pavers encroaching into the neighbor's yard. The applicant has adjusted the plans and has removed the pavers encroaching into the neighbor's yard at 36 Poplar Avenue. Staff requests that the Town Council consider adopting Resolution 2428, adopting design review, a minor exception permit, and a variance. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Tristan Warren. I'm the architect on the project. I think Alex did a great job of sort of explaining what we're aiming to do. We had a great conversation with the ARDB last month. They all approved it. We're comfortable with what we were asking for. So mainly Jeff and I, my client, are here to answer any questions you all may have.
All right, very well. Does anyone else want to be heard from on the part of the applicant at this time? All right, the applicant will have 5 minutes of rebuttal time in addition. Are there any questions from the council for the applicant at this point? All right, very good. So if the applicant has concluded its opening, we will hear from any member of the public on this project. Is there anyone present in the room tonight who wishes to be heard on 34 Poplar? And is there anyone on Zoom?
Zane Morrissey.
Hi there. I'm just restating the comment submitted dated today. There's no need to repeat it, but I believe all 4 of you should have a copy of it. Thank you.
Yes, we do have a copy. Thank you very much. Does anyone else wish to be heard? Anyone else on Zoom?
No other raised hands on Zoom.
All right, then we will go back. Does the applicant have anything further to add?
Excuse me, Alex. What was Zane's comment pertaining to? Was that pertaining to the noise, or was that pertaining to?
The noise.
I just like simple comment on that, and response is, as we discussed with the ARDB, this is further away from 36 Poplar. It's under the cover and fully enclosed in an area underneath the ADU that my clients are building, and we could build an outdoor kitchen fully conforming closer to their property. We're trying to do something that I think is more sensitive to everybody involved, meets my client's needs in a better way. I appreciate the noise concern, but the outdoor kitchen could happen regardless, and we wouldn't even be standing here talking about it because we could do it conforming within the setbacks. It's only because 34 Poplar is a 50-foot wide lot, and our side setbacks in that jurisdiction are 15 feet. Therefore, we have 20 feet in the middle of the property, which means that any outdoor kitchen that is conforming sort of sits in the middle of the yard, which benefits, as I said, not very many people. And that's all we have to say on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, well, if there's nothing further, we will close public comment and bring the matter back to the council. Does any council member have any? Yes, Councilmember Robbins. Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's not unreasonable to issue this variance because what's being proposed is adjacent to a commercial building. I think if there was a house next door, I don't think that there's any way the council would say, oh, sure, put your outdoor kitchen right at the property line. But this is a different kind of property line. And so I'm okay with the variance for this project because the project is adjacent to a commercial building.
And the noise ordinance restrictions would obviously apply to any use of the outdoor kitchen and time and et cetera. So I'm fully supportive of this, and I'm ready to make a motion if there's no other discussion.
I'll just join in the comments that have been made so far, and also the applicants pointing out that this actually could all be done legally and not in the setback, but it would be closer to the neighbors' homes where they're concerned about noise. So it's as far away as they can make it. If it were a swimming pool or anything in one's backyard, there's always a potential for noise. And I appreciate the neighbors' concern. We're always concerned with noise in our nice, quiet, hopefully quiet neighborhoods. But I agree. I think I would support this project. I will support it.
So I move that we approve, or we adopt resolution number 2428, approving the project subject to conditions.
Second.
Mayor Pro Tem McMillan.
Aye.
Mayor Kircher.
Aye.
Councilmember Robbins.
Aye.
With a vote of 3, the motion passes.
All right, so let's move on then to item 8B, 118 Winding Way, design review, variance, and town council adoption of resolution 2429, approving the project subject to conditions. Alex.
Mayor and council members, tonight the homeowner at 118 Winding Way is requesting approval from the town council to approve a design review and a variance. The project is proposing to expand the approved gravel patio by 310 square feet, as well as to construct 2 stone retaining walls. One of the retaining walls, though, will measure up to 10 feet in height. At the June meeting, all the ADR members supported the project. A variance is required to construct retaining walls over 6 feet in height and to expand the patio within the side yard setback. Staff requests that the town council consider adopting resolution 2429, approving design review and a variance. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any questions from council at this point? All right, very good. We'll hear from the applicant then.
Good evening. My name is Ron Sutton. I'm representing Mary and Jim Bowie, who are the owners of this property. I guess we're not going to get into a full-blown presentation, but a little clarification for this. The reason we're asking for this retaining wall into the setback is because of the ADU is allowed in the setback because it only requires a 4-foot setback, whereas the property requires a 45-foot setback for any other construction. And our ADU is not 4 feet; it's 25 feet from the neighbor property line, but it still exists in the setback. So we're trying to connect the terrace to the pool to the house, and to do that, because of the steep site, the retaining wall needs to tie, otherwise the dirt falls down the hill. So without the retaining wall, we can't tie these together. Now, just to be clear, we are proposing a 300 square foot terrace, a patio, but it's impervious surface, but only 34 feet of it is in the setback. The rest of it is outside the setback. That's the little bit we need to connect. And the retaining wall, there's just a sliver of it in the corner that is over, is the 10-foot requirement, over the 6-foot requirement of the retaining wall, just because of the slope down the hillside where it meets the ADU. That area is very small. Actually, when all of the retaining walls are in, the grade is in, we have to measure that height from either the lowest point, which is either the new grading or the existing grading. Our new grading will actually be higher, so there'll only be about 8 feet at the highest point exposed, and it's about 5 feet long, and then it goes to 0. But we have to measure from the lower, which makes it 10 feet, but you only see 8 feet of the highest part. So I can answer any other questions, but we tried to minimize things as much as we could. And also the neighbors below, the Gambles, have looked at the story poles and are okay with the wall and the variance. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Anyone else on behalf of the applicant at this point? Yes, a question from Councilmember Robbins.
I'm sorry, did you say that the patio is 300 square feet, but 34 square feet of that is in the setback?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
It's 3 by 12 or 13 is the area that's in the setback.
Okay.
It's an area like a strip 3 feet wide by like 13 feet long or 14 feet long that's in the setback. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So we will now open this for public comment on this item. Does anyone present in the room have any comments? I don't see anyone else in the room, so I'm assuming the answer to my question is no. How about, is there anyone on Zoom?
There are no raised hands on Zoom.
All right, well, the applicant has another 5 minutes for rebuttal, but I guess there's nothing to rebut. So if there's nothing further, we will bring it back to council, close comment, public comment, bring it back to council for discussion.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 2429, approving the project, subject to conditions.
Second.
Mayor Pro Tem McDowell? Mayor Pro Tem McMillan?
Aye.
Councilmember Dowling? Mayor Kircher?
Aye,
Councilmember Robbins?
Aye.
With a vote of 4, the motion passes.
thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you could just give us 1 minute to pull up the presentation. Thank you. Thank you. Let me introduce you real quick.
Yeah,
Thank you.
So we're on to item 9, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Town council to approve Town of Ross annual financial report for the year ended June 30th, 2023, with no findings.
This is a momentous occasion because we have not had a presentation by our auditor for a few years now. So just to start off, that each year the town engages an independent auditor to prepare an audit of the town's financial statements. Because the California Government Code requires a change in auditors every 6 years, Nathan Edelman, a partner in the firm that the town has contracted with for several years, is here this evening to give the town council a brief presentation and answer any questions the council may have about our financial documents for the year ending 2023. I'd like to present and give a warm Ross welcome to Nathan. Thank you for coming here tonight.
Oh boy, yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you everyone for having me. I think here I can.
We're getting our little.
Well, do I just,
Oh,
or full screen?
yeah.
Okay. Oh, much better. Okay. All right.
Thank you,
Excellent.
Cindy.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Let's talk about accounting for the next few minutes. So, again, my name is Nathan Edelman with Eide Bailey, and I am the independent external auditor. And this is my first time. California does require what's called audit partner rotation every 6 years. And so this was my first time looking at your financial statements, looking at the audit. So with that, I'll just give you the 10,000-foot executive overview of what it means to do an audit and the results of that audit. And so you have in the packet, you have a set of financial statements, June 30, 2023, and that is what we call the full disclosure GAAP-based set of financial statements for the town. And the point of the audit is to make sure that those financial statements are correct, that they are complete and accurate, and that they really comply with all of those governmental accounting rules. And so we look at the accounting principles that were used. We look at the disclosures that are in the financial statements, and really just looking at the overall set of financial statements. And our job as auditors is to say, yes or no, do these comply with those governmental accounting rules? And then there's also something called internal control deficiencies. Mostly that's when the auditor comes in and says, in order for the financial statements to be correct, you have to change something. And that could be cash wasn't reconciled. It could be that there was errors with payables or receivables or revenue. And if those are identified, we're we are under government auditing standards required to call out those as well. So our job as auditors, we are just the messenger. We ask questions, we take up a lot of staff time, and then we report back to you the results of the audit. But it's management, it's the folks on the finance side that are responsible for ensuring that the numbers are correct, that they are complete and accurate, and they have to support the audit. They do the hard work. They have to survive the audit. So with that, the results of the audit, what we call there's an opinion on the financial statements. It's called a clean or unmodified opinion. It really goes on for a couple pages, but it sums up. Financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects, and then there were no internal control deficiencies, no audit adjustments were necessary. And so audits aren't really exciting. There's no balloons or rainbows that go with them, but this is the best thing that the auditor can be reporting, because it's really just that there was not a whole lot to talk about. So that is the expected outcome. Not always the given outcome, but that is the expected outcome, and quite a bit of work on management's part goes in there. A couple other things, just very quickly, that you implemented something about subscriptions. There was a change in accounting principles that gets called out within the report. Nothing unusual for the town. That's actually applies to everybody, all local governments across the country. And then there's something called significant estimates, which are, for you here, it's pension and OPEB, and estimates involve some level of uncertainty. There's actuarial valuations in this case, and the auditor just makes sure that those estimates are consistent with what you would expect, consistent with standards. And with that, that's my presentation. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to try and answer those as best I can. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions from council?
It sounds like what you're saying is we couldn't have done better.
Yeah, that's pretty much sums it up.
That's awesome. Thank you. We need to make a motion, or?
Well, I think the town council to approve the financial report, so I believe we would need a motion that this is an action item. Is that correct? All right.
That's my understanding, yes. We do need you to take an action on this item.
Yes, please.
We have a motion. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. We do need to open this for public comment. Does anyone in the room or present on Zoom have any comment?
There are no raised hands on Zoom.
All right, then bring it back to the council for any further discussion and
A quick
or
comment.
action.
Thank you, Krista, and staff for everything you did to get this great audit. Thanks.
Although she is not eager to speak at the council meeting, I do want to recognize the town's consulting accountant, Elizabeth Ford, for doing a big chunk of work, and Cindy and Donna in our town clerk's office as well, and the rest of staff. So it is definitely a team effort, and we appreciate the work of Nathan and his team, and for giving us good advice throughout the year. So we rely on them. Thank you.
Yes, thank you all very much. All
Mayor,
right,
may I make a motion?
please.
I'd like to move that we approve the Town of Ross Annual Financial Report for the year ending June 30th, 2023.
Second.
Mayor Pro Tem McMillan?
Aye.
Councilmember Dowling? Mayor Kircher?
Aye.
Councilmember Robbins?
Aye.
With a vote of 4, the motion passes.
All right, thank you. So now we'll move on to item 10, Town Council to receive a presentation from staff regarding existing field rental and special event fees, review staff recommendations for fee adjustments, and adopt resolution number 2431 listing field rental rates.
Thank you, Mayor. We have Maureen Borthwick is here tonight, our Recreation Manager, to give a presentation to council and go through some handful of staff recommendations for council's consideration. This review is a part of just regular good governance and good staff work to just be reviewing our fees on a regular basis. And I want to commend Maureen for doing this work and bringing forward to the council. So thank you.
Thank you, Krista. Thank you, Mayor and members of Town Council. The item before you outlines a recommendation that Town Council receive a presentation regarding existing field rental and special event fees, review the staff recommendations for fee adjustments, and adopt resolution number 2431, listing field rental rates. Since July of 2023, Ross Recreation has completed 11 field rental requests and 3 special event requests, excluding the Town of Ross co-sponsored events with Ross Property Owners Association and Ross Auxiliary. Total income for fiscal year ending '24, field rentals brought in just over $9,000, with Ross Valley Little League and Ross Valley Lacrosse Club generating 80% of that total revenue. Although it is a modest revenue, staff did consider the importance of field rental fees and how they impact the community. So in accordance with industry standards, the Town of Ross charges a fee to individuals and groups that would like to rent town-owned facilities. The purpose of these fees is to cover costs associated with staff time to coordinate and process rental requests, facility and field maintenance, duty use, and to provide the renter with exclusive use of the facility or field. Compared to neighboring cities, the Town of Ross field rental fees were found to be on the lower end of the rental fee range for similar rental space. They did not include classifications for type of renter, such as resident, non-resident, and commercial. They did not include a rental deposit and did not include an optional field attendant fee. The image to the left of on the presentation shows our field rental fee comparisons with our neighboring jurisdictions, while the image on the right shows picnic area rental comparisons. I understand it is a little small to see on the screen, but it is included in the staff report, so you can see it there. Town of Ross special event fees were found to be organized differently than our neighboring jurisdictions. For example, neighboring cities' special event applications require application and administration fees in addition to required facility rental fees. Staff found the primary structural difference between the town's special event fees compared to neighboring cities' fees is due to our limited rental options, which do not include any indoor facilities and is restricted to outdoor sports fields and a single picnic area, which is the Three Bear Hut and surrounding picnic area. Staff found that Town of Ross special event fees require a processing fee and establish additional fees based on events less than or more than 4 hours. There are no optional facility attendant fees for a special event, nor are there required damage deposits. So, based on those findings, staff recommend rate adjustments to field rentals, including our sports fields and picnic area, to include 4 classifications: resident, non-resident, commercial, and youth sports league local, which would be Ross Valley Little League and Ross Valley Lacrosse Club. Additionally, staff recommend that 501c3 nonprofit organizations that serve Ross residents or Ross School District, such as the Ross PTO would be an example of that, shall be allowed to participate in facility rentals at the standard resident rate minus 20%. Furthermore, staff recommend consolidating the Town of Ross special event application and fees to align with neighboring jurisdictions. Recommended changes include eliminating fees based on the over or under 4-hour rental threshold and changing to rentals with over 150 participants or attendees, instituting a rental deposit system, and adding an optional facility attendant fee. In regards to that, please note that the ability to provide that attendant is purely based on staffing. So if there is staff, great. If there is no staff, we can't guarantee that we can provide an attendant. There are no recommended changes to the current special event processing fee, which pays for staff admin time to coordinate, process, and communicate with applicants, as well as covering costs associated with the permitting system. Recommendations are based on the industry standard throughout Marin County and will lead to a slight reduction in rental fees for residents without sacrificing services. In conclusion, after receiving this presentation regarding our existing field rental and special event fees, as well as staff recommendations for fee adjustments based on industry standard, staff recommends that the Town Council enact the proposed fee adjustments through adoption of Resolution number 2431 listing field rental rates. Thank you.
Bill, can I ask a question?
I'm sorry, I'm
It's
still
okay.
reading the fee requirement and dereliction of duty. I apologize.
It's okay.
Please.
Maureen, I can't remember the annual revenue for Ross Rec. Is it like around 600,000?
Revenue is about 830 in total.
Because I try to do the math, and this 9,000 would be less than 1%.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, well, I will then open this for public comment. Does anyone wish to be heard on this item, either present here today or on Zoom? Any raised hands?
No raised hands on Zoom.
All right, and I'll close public comment. Any council discussion?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 2431, listing field rental rates.
Second.
Mayor Pro Tem McMillan.
Aye.
Councilmember Dowling. Mayor Kircher.
Aye.
Councilmember Robbins.
Aye.
With a vote of 4, the motion passes.
All right,
That was
so
a great job.
next agenda item. By the way, thank you very much, Maureen, for all your hard work on this and other staff. We're on to item 11, Town Council to authorize the town manager to open a town-administered separate general ledger account for the holding and tracking of residents' receipts and expenses related to the formation of a new utility undergrounding assessment district, which would include certain properties along Upper Road, Woodhaven Road, and Upper Road West.
Thank you, Mayor. Rich Semenich, Public Works Director. Tonight, I have a brief presentation on this item that I will bring up here. Okay. Yeah, so tonight we are, staff is coming to council tonight to request the opening of an account to take in receipts from a group of residents who are interested in forming a undergrounding district up in Upper West Ross, we're going to call it for now. They approached me in April. They're very interested in doing it. They're following the steps of the policy very closely to get to the point where they could go out and receive their petitions and bring those to council for the initiation of the district. So I'll start my presentation here and kind of walk through it with you and kind of show you where the district is as well. So up here on the screen, you can see in gray, this is overlaid on our map of town-maintained roads and non-town maintained roads. So that blob in the gray in the middle there, that's the current West Ross undergrounding district that we are approaching completion of final engineering and getting ready to kind of get some construction bids here later this year and bring that to a ballot back to the council for the actual the creation of the district and to enter into construction and get the district done. So that's the current West Ross Undergrounding District number 1 that we formed in 2020. And then in green, you'll see more or less that there, of course, we don't have a boundary yet, but that's kind of the area that this neighborhood group is interested in forming a assessment district contiguous to and to the west of the existing assessment district. So in order to bring this to council, just to initiate the district, the neighborhood group needs to have engineering consultant prepare preliminary boundary and cost estimates for the undergrounding and for staff time and PG&E's time and all those sort of fees in order to get a rough idea of what the individual assessments will be for each parcel so that they can inform the constituents of the future district so that they can get an accurate ballot count and bring that to council for the initiation of the district. So again, the items that are required to initiate the district is the informal assessment district boundary, an estimate of the design and construction costs to construct the district. And then from that, you develop an estimate of individual parcel assessments. Now, I have these 3 items on my presentation in gold and or yellow to show that these are costs that they would need to hire a assessment district engineer in this preliminary phase to develop these items. And the issue is I did meet with the neighborhood group and an engineering consultant. We had a Zoom meeting. We talked about the district and the policy. It turns out that in the current environment of engineering consulting, they were not interested in consulting with a neighborhood group and to contract with them. They were more interested in contracting directly with the town. So following the philosophy of our policy, well, yes, we can contract with this engineer, but we would need the neighborhood group to contribute the money that would pay for this consultant, and that money needs to go, their deposits of the contributors need to go in an account that that the town would manage. And once they have these documents, then they could circulate their petitions of interest, and if 65% of the property owners support the district, they can come to the council, and we can initiate the district, and that's when we'd go to the next big step of hiring a consultant to do the complete design of the district, and we'd hire a bond counsel and the whole deal, very similar or identical to what we did with the West Ross Undergrounding District number 1. So if the initiation of the district is approved at a public hearing, the property owners must pay the town in advance for engineering and legal services costs. So we'd go through this process again, except we'd already have this account set up. So they would, if we get an initiation of the district, then the property owners would come back and contribute even more money so that we could get the district designed. So what comes with the creation of this account and the contributions from the private property owners, the town is going to ask for what's called a deposit and a release agreement will be required from each contributor to acknowledge that the deposit for district formation costs must be completed before any assessment district work can commence. That we need to get the money seeded into this account before we can even hire this consultant in this initial phase. The contributor must own a parcel within the proposed district. That's right out of our policy. The contributions become part of the assessment district costs. And if the district is formed and the town issues the bonds for the assessment district, the town will either refund the contributor deposit in full from the bond proceeds or credit the funds toward the contributor's assessment to reduce their annual assessment. But if the assessment district fails to form for any reason, any unspent deposit will be returned to the contributors, but the spent portion cannot be recovered. So this deposit and release is acknowledgement from the contributors that they could, if the district doesn't form, they could lose their deposit. And the release form is actually included in your packet, beginning on page 16 of attachment B. But it's fairly straightforward and delineated in these 5 items here. So staff is recommending that the town council provide authorization to the town manager to open a town administer what we're calling a separate general ledger account for the holding and tracking of residents' receipts and expenses related to the formation of a new utility undergrounding assessment district, which would include certain properties along Upper Road, Woodhaven Road, and Upper Road West. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
I have a question, Rich. In terms of hiring the initial consultant, is that something that the residents do, or is that something that the town will do?
So the town will do that. I've already received a proposal from a consultant to do this preliminary work. And so we would contract with them in every sense of the word, except to pay them, it would come out of this account.
Just curious, Rich, how many households are there in this Upper West Ross neighborhood?
That would be best answered when we go to open the floor to public hearing. We have the actual committee chairman here, if you will, that could answer those types of questions better than I could.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Robbins.
We didn't go through this process with the other undergrounding district. What is different with this district?
That's a great question, Elizabeth. So the first group, we didn't really have a policy in place for one thing, and they went directly to ILS Associates, who apparently are no longer doing this type of work. And this is back in 2019 when they approached ILS. So they had all this stuff done already before they came in, approached the town for initiation. They paid ILS, a number of checks or however they paid it. So slightly different. And I tried to contact ILS. I contacted CSW Stuber-Stroh, who is our current assessment district engineer, and they're too swamped to do any work, additional work at this point. And I talked to Harris, which was the initial engineer that I talked to with the neighborhood group earlier this spring, and they did a few of the assessment districts in Tiburon, so they're very familiar with this work. So they would be the ones that we would be contracting with.
But no one will contract with the neighbors, only with the town?
Yes.
And then bringing the town into it and keeping the ledger and all that, it seems like there should be some consideration for the staff time. Is there some way of paying for staff services for this?
We can take that into account. Normally, after initiation, we are tracking staff time that we're putting into to keep the district moving. So that could be considered. We're not really. I will track my time, and we can include that into the costs of the district when we go finally to calculate how we're going to finance it through a bond measure. So I think the short answer is yes, we're tracking staff time as well.
Because it seems like that would be fair for the district that's spent, so much volunteer time doing it, that if the town does the work that had been done by a volunteer, that, the town should be reimbursed, even though I get that this can only happen through the town at this point, but it's a town expense, right?
Right.
And then as far as the release that you, those 6 things that people were signing, has that gone through our lawyers, and that's, totally safe so that the town won't get sued if somebody's unhappy about the way the district progresses?
Yes, it was originally drafted by Ben Stock and Joe Chin back in 2020, and myself contributed. And Mary has reviewed or I did send the document to Mary as well for her review.
Thank you.
Mayor, excuse me.
Yes.
I'd just like to add that, the vast majority of the work that's required is really our Public Works Director, Rich Simonich, who's handling it. Our consulting accountant does keep track of the account and reconciles it every month. And then she presents it to me, goes through it with me, and I actually have to sign off on it. So we estimate that just takes about an hour of time, and I think we pay her about $75 an hour. So that's what we pay for that, but the majority of the time is Rich Simonich's time.
Any further questions? All right, then we will open this for public comment. Does any member of the public wish to comment on this item?
Thank you for the opportunity.
Please. Thank you.
I'll just make some brief comments. I'm Gina Nellison, representing Woodhaven Road, together with Upper and Upper Road West. And Rich, thank you for preparing such a detailed presentation. Rich has been very generous with his time meeting with me going back to April, and I am more than happy to assist with some of the work, but I have found that these engineering companies don't want to work directly with us. And given the amount of money that needs to be raised, at least initially 100,000, maybe plus, this account would promote transparency, and most donors want to write a check to the town of Ross for the benefit of this district, not to, me. And with the first district, I think a single homeowner may have actually paid, all of this herself. So we are more of a collective group, but we have a lot of motivated homeowners that would like to make this happen, and I think it is in furtherance of the town's goals. So even though there would be some staff time, I can help you, but hopefully it will, move the town forward in that sense. So, thank you.
Very good, thank you very much. Anyone else, any other member of the public desire to be heard? Anyone on Zoom?
No raised hands on Zoom.
All right, then we'll close public comment, bring this back to the council for discussion.
So I move we approve this ledger account.
Second.
Mayor Pro Tem McMillan?
Aye.
Councilmember Dowling?
Aye.
Mayor Kircher?
Aye.
Councilmember Robbins?
Aye.
With a vote of 4, the motion passes.
All right. So that marks the end of our administrative agenda. And we move on to item 12, no action items. Does any council member have any council correspondence to share at this time? And hearing no one, I will move on to item 12B, future council items. Does any member of the council have a future council item to propose?
Well, I have one.
Yes.
To see whether for the next or the August agenda, I guess, whether the council wants to consider asking the Ross Valley Fire Board to consider postponing the closure of the Ross Fire Station for 6 or 12 months if there's not a lease agreement with the Ross Valley Paramedic Association.
For how long?
I was thinking 6 to, we would, I guess that would be something we would discuss, but if
Yes.
it makes it to our agenda, it's up for discussion. But I was thinking, postponing the closure by 6 months or until we get a lease agreement with the Ross Valley Fire Department, Paramedic Authority.
All right. Any other council member join in that
And the thinking is
request?
that our lease with the Paramedic Authority is up in September, so that, and the fire station is set to close in the end of June. And, if there isn't, I would be interested in discussing with the fire board if they would consider extending the Ross Station if we don't yet have a lease with the Paramedic Authority.
Isn't the time to do that once the lease isn't extended? I mean, we're kind of speculating and having a hypothetical, aren't we?
Well, I mean, it's not, I don't think it's inappropriate to ask them to consider it, just because we're not there yet, and we keep thinking we're there and we're not.
I strongly object to doing that.
Okay.
Anyone else join?
I was just going to say, could you explain a little bit why you object?
If I may, I
you can.
apologize, Mayor Kircher, and I apologize for interrupting you. I just want to make sure we don't get too far afield into a discussion about the merits of the item versus whether the council wants to place it on a future agenda for discussion. Thank you.
Yes, quite correct. We are not supposed to discuss the merits. But I think our hesitation is whether to get into this now or not.
I mean, if there's no one seconding, we'll keep thinking about it, or I'll keep thinking.
If we second it, if there's a second, what does that mean?
A second means it will be agendized.
But we don't know when. Or is the recommendation that it's next meeting?
I mean, I would want it on soon, but.
Well, the agenda is normally set by the town manager, mayor, and vice mayor. So the timing actually is a kind of a decision depending on staff resources, staff time, what else is on the agenda.
I mean, it's fine to
so-
wait on this. I'll just pass. Why don't we move on? Did you have something,
Yeah.
Terry? Okay,
Yeah, I just add,
can't comment.
this might be something to be brought up later. I might agree, but not now. All right, Terry. I'm sorry.
And a future council item would be a discussion about the Class 2 e-bikes. That we actually have it on a future council item. And I would think it would depend upon the timing that you need to think about when that legislation is going to be signed by the governor, which I believe is in September. It'll be passed by the two houses by the end of August, and then it goes to the governor's desk, I believe, in September. So that would be, I would like to see that on the agenda.
And you're thinking after the legislation, so that we have some guidance?
That might be a good idea, yes.
I mean, I would support that if it's after the state acts.
Yes, I would also join, but as a future, and by future I mean not August, but sometime, probably in the fall. I would like to come back and address this again. Right.
Yeah, and I would like to get more input from Chief Potta's committee too, when we consider that.
Yes. Town Manager Johnson.
Mayor, and Mayor and Council, at some point, I know a strategy, I don't know if this has been used here in Ross, but in other cities, sometimes the town council meets with the school board once a year or something to discuss issues of interest to both. And this, or maybe you have an agenda item just with the council, but at some point, if you want to get buy-in or input from the school board, you could have asked them to have a joint meeting.
Interesting.
Idea.
We did that with the facilities in the early 2000s, actually.
All right. All right, well, that concludes our agenda. And so if there are no further council items, then we'll stand adjourned at 7:32. Good job, everyone. Thank you.